I would rather die than admit that Christy Rutherford is not perfect, because we're not allowed to say that we don't have it all together. And we don't have anybody to confide in that will listen to the high achiever who don't know how to stop. For real, we look crazy. And I don't apologize for that, but it's like, we're different. You have people, and then you got high achievers. High achievers, the drive and the mindset is different, which comes back to what we talked about earlier, which is the trauma default. What is your default response to stress? What's your default response to conflict? And that trauma default is rooted in one or two experiences from your childhood, which is what drives you to achieve. High achievers are survivors. High achievers have been through something.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Embracing Only Show. I am thrilled today. You can probably hear it in my voice because my mentor / mama bear, Christy Rutherford, is here with us, and I am too excited to have her on the show. So Christy is a globally recognized executive coach, leadership strategist, and burnout recovery expert whose work has transformed the lives of hundreds of high-achieving women. A Harvard Business School alumni and the 13th African-American woman to achieve the rank of commander in the United States Coast Guard, Christy blends military precision with deep emotional intelligence to help leaders reclaim their power and their purpose. She is the creator of the Trauma Default Breakthrough System, a proven methodology that addresses the hidden impact of unresolved trauma on success, earning potential, and well-being. Her clients have collectively earned over $20 million in salary raises and small business revenue, and her work has been featured in Forbes, Black Enterprise, and the Congressional Record. Christy is the author of 10 books, y'all. 10 of them, okay? She's a dynamic keynote speaker and host of a globally ranked podcast. Whether she's speaking to Fortune 500 executives or mentoring women of color like myself who are navigating systemic barriers, Christy's mission is clear: to build a world of whole, empowered leaders who thrive from the inside out. Christy, welcome to the Embracing Only podcast.
I was over. Podcast is over. You read my bio. That was just a short one. We ran out of time.
I love it. So let's just kick this off. Most of the folks that follow us, we have dropped your name. And by we, I mean me specifically, have dropped your name multiple times. Archita has referenced you as well. So our audience by now should know a little bit of your backstory. But in case you're new here, we want to give you a little bit of context. So Christy, you've had an incredible journey from military leader to coach. And I know you've told it a ton, but can you give the audience kind of the backstory from your days in the military and the craziness there to becoming a coach? Kind of walk us through your journey.
So since coach is an overused and abused term for people who got laid off from their jobs and couldn't get a job and they became a coach, I like to call myself a strategic advisor.
Lovely.
Okay, great. So, I just talked to this guy and he was like, I see coaches overused. I was like, yeah, but they're not experts. And so he tried to drill me a little bit. He said, yeah, you're exactly what I've been looking for. I'm like, dude, you make $150,000 a year. You should be at 1.5 million. I could teach you how to get there. That's what strategic advising does. A coach would be like, okay, let's get 175. But anyway, your question, the journey. Ooh, it's a lot. So I would give you I think probably the 2-minute wrap up. As we talked about earlier, we are conditioned from our families to endure. We're conditioned as women of color to endure. So when we get into careers, it doesn't matter whether it's military, whether or not you're a lawyer, a corporate, a doctor, you are going to endure the BS and put up with whatever. And so being a barrier breaker, somebody who was born to break generational patterns for their family, there is risk associated with that. And then it's also the fear of failure. So I was driven by my fear of failure. I was driven by, I don't want to fail in front of my family, because being one of the first to graduate from college, there was an expectation of failure when I was in college. So I can't go back home. So that's what drove me to run through walls and kick doors open and prove people wrong and cuss people out and over deliver and work 3 times as hard. And Olivia, have 6, I would volunteer for everything. They didn't require that. And listen to people get a combination medal when I was early in my career. And I would listen to what the 6 white guys did to get that medal. And I did all 6 things. Now, they only did one of the things. I did all 6 to make sure. And they still didn't give it to me. Whole nother story. That's what drove me. And so I was thinking earlier about how would I explain to Black women in the Coast Guard and the younger ones, I would say, of why is me saying I was the 13th Black woman it's important. Well, it's not that important to military people, Olivia, because commanders are now normal. Black captains are now normal, but they were my mentees. Hello. So it's like, that's now a normal thing. That's not something that's so uncommon, but that's an indicator to the civilian world that I've been through some ish. Just that stamp alone has been like, oh, she's been through something. Where our demographic was 50 Black female officers, that's 0.1%. That's like a easy passport stamp of, she's proven something. Okay, great. That's why I use that. And then I burned out at 37 because you can only drive your car doing 150 miles per hour. Never slow down for an oil change. We're not changing the oil filters. We're not rotating our tires. So once I burn out, because we can't sustain that level of intensity forever. And I didn't know how to stop. And because now I'm Christy Rutherford, I'm a leader in the organization and everybody knew me. I had a brand. So when I started suffering, nobody cared. Nobody asked. Nobody cared. And by the time I confessed to myself that I was in trouble, well, I was almost 90% in the ground, digging an early grave with 27 medical conditions. By the time I told somebody else, now I'm 95% in the ground and nobody saw me suffering. They only saw the brand that I created. And so once I burned out, actually, I left my career at 3.5 years, left to retire with a full pension, get all my money. I didn't get it. And I ended up losing my mind, i.e. I burned my mental health down to the ground with stage 12 burnout because that's the only thing that was going to stop me. I didn't know how to stop. It's on. That was my only button. It was in, and everybody could see and wonder why. What is wrong with this lady? I couldn't stop. So once I mentally collapsed in stage 12 burnout where I could not talk for a year, I had a long time to sit around and think about the things that I had done to create that scenario. Yes, they were crazy. Yes, they were toxic. Yes, they started it, and I cussed them out and talked about their mama. And I have put 3 men in the closet crying after the things that I have said to them, which karma came back to get me. But once I stopped, I could see how I created my self-destruction. And over time, in 2019, 2020, so the $20 million of salary raises, that's just past 2020. I didn't even count the money before that. I didn't count your money when you doubled your salary. So it's like, that's what drives, i.e. drove some of the things that I do is like, I only talk to champions. I only talk to high achievers. I only talk to people who don't know how to stop. We don't know how to stop. And I speak the language of champions so I can be trusted by people without judgment. I can be trusted by people with large brands and with clout and with success to be like, you can slow down. You know you're about to die. That's what I would tell my clients. You're about to die, right? They be like, what? And so they can trust that I've gone through the fire and there is no condemnation. There is no judgment. I'm not trying to make them slow down. I'm just trying to help them not die so we can get more money. That's pretty much a wrap up of what I do.
Well, you're a legend. When Olivia introduced me to the Christy brand and I started following it on LinkedIn, I was like, what the heck? Why didn't I have no Christy in my life before this? And just what you've said and what you've shared re-emphasizes all of this. And it really frustrates me because every week, Christy, I have a friend somewhere in the world who's calling me up and is late 30s, early 40s. They don't use the word burnout, hate their bloody lives, hate what's happening to them, but they're not ready to press off, whatever that off means. And they have the privilege to truly actually press off, take a break, step away, whatever. And they associate so much. And I was one of those people. So I'm not sitting here like on a nice little cloud of mine. I'm like, look at all these minions and they don't understand like see their worth or whatever. But I was one of those people. But I was on a call yesterday with one of my first friends I ever had in my life. Like I was 6 months old when I became friends with her. And she's been a reporter for some of the best and the biggest journalism companies out there. And a year ago, she calls me with like workplace toxicity and things like that. And I'm like, girlfriend, like this is what's going to happen. 1 + 1 is going to equal 35 and it's going to be terrible. She didn't listen. 6 months later, she calls again. She's like, this is getting worse. And people just choose to use the word endure. She continued to endure. And then she finally said no. So good on her, finally said no. But then she sits on the call and she's like, but I'm okay now. I'm like, no, you're not okay. So 2 things for you, Christy. 1, what is 1 or 2 indicators or 3 indicators for women specifically when they're on their way to complete, like, I need to turn the off switch somehow, that they need to watch out for? And 2, how do they recognize that it's okay to not be okay? And just saying, oh, but I'm okay, is actually feeding that burnout even more.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Cream. If you are a corporate girly and you are struggling, you're feeling stuck, maybe you're feeling underpaid, overqualified, you're struggling with your boss, or bigger yet, you're even trying to clearly articulate what it is that you want from your corporate career, I am the coach for you. So if you're ambitious and you've got goals to accomplish and you want to accomplish them quickly, check out my website, oliviacream.com. I would love to help you reach your goals.
Hi, everybody. I'm Archita Fritz, your other host of the Embracing Only podcast. If you're ready to leave corporate, or you've changed a couple of corporate jobs and want to start a profitable side brilliance, you've made the decision, but you feel unsure of the next steps, here's how I can help you. I can guide you through a successful transition to entrepreneurship to help turn those ideas into profit. So reach out to me on LinkedIn or visit me on architafritz.com to accelerate your empowered transitions. Now, back to the episode.
So it's 2 things. And I have a burnout score. So I'll give that to y'all so y'all can give it to your people. It's free. Y'all can take the burnout score to figure out where you are, right? We don't know that there are 12 stages of burnout. I didn't know that there were 12 stages of burnout until last year I decided to talk about burnout. I was like, Olivia, I'm not like somebody who studied how to recover from burnout. I recovered from absolute burning my brain down to 2 atoms. I can tell people how to get back up because I've done it. Right. We don't know. And I was like, wait, there are 12 stages. And once I started to look at the data, because we're data driven, I could see where I was and what year I was in. Oh, we just say burnout. Well, we don't know that. Okay, if I was burnt out last year, I was in stage 8. I was in the advanced stage. The next year, I'm in stage 9. And so from 10 to 12 is like, I call it a banana peel slip because we're so far gone. It's almost like I tried to push through the last barrier and it's like I pushed through the water and I mentally collapsed. There was no one big thing I was trying to overcome when I slipped into absolute self-destruction. There was a lady who was a restaurateur Quita, I think was her name. She tweeted or whatever, Quita needs a nap. Quita went to sleep and didn't wake up. So here's the thing about women. I knew I was going to die, right? But I couldn't get anybody to let me leave my career. I called people. I had 3 therapists. I cussed all of them out, right? Because nobody was getting to the root of why can't I turn myself off? That's the equation to solve for. So even with Quita, somebody put on LinkedIn, she just needs to stop. I said, man, tell somebody to stop and slow down. Man, lady, stop talking because we don't know how to. That's why I only work with, we a little crazy. High achievers, we crazy for a reason. I only talk our language because we don't get that. So the key indicators are headaches, back pain, things that we've normalized. Headaches, back pain. Oh, these women do have flu-like symptoms. I want to be clear. Arthritis, any fibromyalgia, lupus, like fibroids, all of these things that we've normalized, 80% of the autoimmune diseases are from women. Their autoimmune is stress related. I had arthritis when I was 25. I had a handicap sign when I was 25. Nobody knew that, Olivia, because I was a champion. I walked with a limp. I had a handicap sign when I was 25. I had crippling arthritis. And I put it in remission after a year, and that was rage. That was me being harassed by junior white men, and I couldn't punch them in the face. So it materialized and me being crippled. You know, I ain't play that. So they going to run past me in the Marine Safety Office and try to knock me down. It didn't go good. And so because I couldn't stop a hole in there, I ended up like it erupted in arthritis in my body. Oh yeah, I don't play that. And so after a year of crying, woe is me, I said, this ain't the way my life is supposed to go. I figured out and I healed it naturally. But then when it came back in 2012, before I resigned, I'm now putting a boot on a brick. Like my foot was on fire every day. And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm in the emergency room every 2 weeks for flu-like symptoms. I'm okay. There's nothing wrong with me. My arthritis has come back. I have headaches. I felt like I woke up and somebody would be like squeezing the side of my head. I felt like it was a train blowing in my ears, right? And I'm telling people I'm okay. Look, I'm not okay. But I showed up to work every day at 6:30 in the morning and went home at 10 o'clock at night. I didn't have time to work out. I didn't have time to meditate. And by the time I tried to go do yoga, that's like somebody trying to put out a forest fire with a fire extinguisher. So when my toxic boss came, yeah, I can blame that he was toxic and he harassed me, but my forest was on fire 15 years before he came. He was that last match that I just can't take it anymore. So that's one. It's like admit that you're not okay, which is what we're not willing to do because we think that not being okay is a sign of weakness.
Yes.
And if I admit to it, that means I got to change. And that's what I would rather die.
Oh, that's a word there, Christy. If you admit to it, now you got to do something about it. People never get past that. You're saying
I would rather die than admit that Christy Rutherford is not perfect because we're not allowed to say that we don't have it all together. And we don't have anybody to confide in that will listen to the high achiever who don't know how to stop. For real, we look crazy. And I don't apologize for that, but it's like, we're different. You have people and then you got high achievers. High achievers, the drive and the mindset is different, which comes back to what we talked about earlier, which is the trauma default. What is your default response to stress? What's your default response to conflict? And that trauma default is rooted in one or two experiences from your childhood, which is what drives you to achieve. High achievers are survivors. High achievers have been through something. And so what we think is if we fail, we're going to go right back to whatever scenario that we ran out of. And we would rather outrun our scenario than face our past.
Okay, so you're saying so much here, and I want our audience to catch this. So let's go back to trauma default for a second here. Can you explain to us what is it, how it played out for you, and how do you see it playing out in the women that you've coached over time?
Yeah, everybody has a trauma default. So how it played out for me was I was terrified of failure because when I went to college, being the first one, my family, and they would never admit to it, some of them wanted me to fail and come back home. I'm from a small town. Nobody left. We all stayed. It's a village. One of my Harvard classmates said, a group in a village. But it's a small town where everybody's cozy. Well, when I left, there was this expectation that she's going to come back and join us. So I'm not only fighting the systemic racism, Olivia, of being a light-skinned sister at an HBCU, saying that I'm not Black enough. So I got that, right? Walking around fine as wine, who didn't know it because I was a tomboy, right? So I got that. So we have all these weird childhood things that we have, but I also knew I couldn't fail and go back home, which is why I joined the military. All this mouth did not belong in the military. They had a job for me when I graduated. They were going to pay me while I was in school, so I'd have to be a broke college student. And I had a job. Oh, child, please sign me up. R-U-P. Does that make sense? But I tried to make that first job that was chosen out of survival my career. That's where the downfall happened. I was only supposed to be there for so long to get safe. And then safety turned into security. And security turned into self-destruction and my soul being sold out. So that was mine.
Gosh, I know it feels like I was living a parallel life, just not in high stakes military environment, because a lot of what you said resonated even right from the beginning, Christy, when you said that for me it was failure. Coming back to India after being on a visa, and it's shame, you could not graduate from college and find a job, you needed to come back to India. That just felt like the worst case scenario for me. And so the first company I got into an internship with, I stayed for 18 years at. 18 years. Yeah. I shopped maybe once when I was pregnant the second time. that's it, because I was like, oh, maybe I should look or whatever. But it's that safety turning into security and the false sense of security. Like I was in a dinner conversation the other day and someone was like, having a full-time job is more secure. And I was like, what makes you think that that is the case? That is working for like only one paycheck, that you don't know that they might, a client that might choose to work with you tomorrow or not work with you tomorrow. But you said safety turned into security, and security turned into, what was that you said, Christy?
Self-destruction.
Self-destruction. Good Lord. Ladies and gentlemen who are listening. Like, I know a lot of you, because we chat afterwards. You're all in this space of literally choosing consciously to self-destruct every damn day. And a lot of people use this as, not an excuse, but this as their reasoning that, hey, but I love what I do. I really help people. Maybe to those folks, you might love what you do, but you're doing yourself a disservice if you are staying in a space for this absolutely ridiculously extended period of time while you're dealing with things that don't feel safe. They passed me up for a promotion already. Again. But no, but I love my job. I love my team. What would you tell these folks to stop the self-destruction that they continue to choose to step into?
I love what I did. I love the guys who work for me. That don't mean that I didn't suffer. So that doesn't mean that my soul was hollow. I was like that Lent Easter bunny. You bite my ears, nothing was on the inside. So what's the point of having success, which we never really feel successful? That's the question to ask. Now, we had what they say we couldn't get. And we got all of it in plentiful supply. We got the awards on our walls, but do you actually feel successful? So just because you love it, if you're suffering and you love it, you're enduring. What end is the question, right? Like, people keep talking about retirement. I'll be like, did y'all not just see what happened in Texas? People floating, gone in the middle of the night. People who talk about retirement, I can't take these people seriously, because people are checking out of here faster than the express checkout at Marriott. So it's to think that, oh, this is secure so I can retire at 65. Now you're too old to do anything. Sitting in the Southwest line in your wheelchair, waiting to be rolled down on the early boarding. Like, that Southwest wheelchair line is the longest one I've ever seen in my life. Like, I got 30 people in wheelchairs because they're going on their dream vacation. Now you're in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. So it's not about retiring. It is, how do you live if you get to retire? And that's what we're not taught, to be passionate and have joy and exchange value. A job is an exchange of value. I'm going to give you my time and intellectual property. You're going to pay me my money. We've made our jobs our identity and our everything, as opposed to an exchange of value. So I'm going to understand this contract is like we dating. We ain't married and we're not committed. A job is not committed to you. So for people now, I saw somebody yesterday who was like, oh, I was a part of the 9,000 who was laid off at Microsoft. I'm shocked. Hey, lady, I just kept on scrolling. But anybody who's shocked that they got laid off, I don't feel sorry for you. But what are you doing? I ain't even been paying attention. Let me back out of that.
So I kind of want you to go into it, and I'm about to lead you back into that rabbit hole that you were going down, because I think both Archita and I have noticed this phenomenon. And you and I talked about this earlier. Somewhere around 2020, the winds started to shift. And there were folks that kind of chose to take their fate in their own hands and said, let me go try something. Let me start building something. This can't be it, right? We're on fire. We're working all these hours. We're not loving our jobs. We're not being treated fairly. We're being passed over, even though we're doing, like you said, above and beyond what everybody around us is doing. Something's not right. And we started to say, what else is out there? What else is outside of the box? But lately, and I'm going to speak specifically to women of color, because that's the demographic that Archita and I represent. And those are the people that we speak to in multiple different areas on LinkedIn. We see this trend where it's almost like we enjoy the suffering. We want to talk about all these horrible things that are happening. It's like, girl, me too. This is happening. And then somebody like me and Archita or you, Christy, comes in and says, okay, are you mad enough? What are you going to do about it now? Sure. And the answer is still nothing. So I'm curious your take on this phenomenon, Christy. And it's really how are we, specifically women of color, playing a part in our own suffering? And that lies in the fact that we're not getting the value, that we're not getting our worth in the industry because we continue to play a part, continue to play a role, continue to love the suffering.
So the fallout, it was these women are in the critical stages of burnout. So they're incapable of rational thought. So you're expecting for people who are incapable of rational thought to make good decisions. And you can't make good decisions to save yourself if you're incapable of rational thought. And so I think about where I was in the Coast Guard, Olivia, in 2011, 2012. Nobody should have asked me for anything. And look, I didn't know how far gone I was until I came back to myself, like the prodigal son. I had no idea that I was not okay. People were telling me I was not okay. Like my family was looking at me like I was crazy, but I thought I was okay because I was duct taping myself together. I didn't know I was oozing and my white tape was showing. Like, your white tape is showing. And so we think that we have it all together and that nobody can see. I knew I was suffering, but I didn't think that other people could see it because I was taught to endure and to continue on and prove the next person wrong. If I'm going to prove this new guy wrong, I didn't understand that the problem, Olivia, or I didn't understand the problem at the time was me. Because I was just fighting the next person. I was fighting the next battle. And we have a gazillion as women and as women of color. There is not going to be one day where we're not going to have a battle with somebody. We can always blame other people. And so I'm watching now, women are fighting endless battles, like endless. And it's now stacked up to where it's so crazy. You're irrational. You're dying. You're sick. You got fibroids, headaches. Now suffering has become normal. Suffering and finding a community of commonality in your suffering is now normalized. Nobody believes that they can be free. Nobody really wants to be free. We want to suffer together and call that communion, which is insane to me. And so now you have, for me, over the past 5 years, you talked about the money, the $20 million in salary raises. What I taught my women to do was not to burn out and not die. Well, I had to get them on the phone to attract them with what they thought the problem was. The problem is your job. When I got them on the phone, I was like this. So tell me what happened in your childhood though, right? What's your trauma default? Where's this thing linked to? And what's the script that's playing in your head of why you're choosing to do this? Case in point, our teacher asked me earlier about, or maybe it was you who asked me of a story. I had a client, 43, executive at a tech company. She had 8-month-old twins. Oof. Working from home 16 hours a day. And we talked on the phone. I remember where I was when I was driving in Vegas, and she stopped combing her hair and she stopped taking showers. I was like, you know, you're about to die, right? She was like, yeah. She could not stop herself. And so that's when okay, I said, are you married? Because you're not taking showers. What is going on with you? Well, she was incapable of rational thought because she still showed up working 16 hours a day. And she got twins, 8-month-old twins, and you're married? She went crazy. So she was making at the time over $220,000 a year while cooking the meals, cleaning the house like Medea, right? Folding the clothes and doing all these things of the island life, the island parents of you got to be the wife, you got to be a good mother, and this is what being a woman means. So she's doing all the things of what a woman means while making the money. Man, outsource that. She couldn't give herself permission to have somebody make the meals. Man, you make $200,000 a year. So once she got a night nanny and she got somebody to come clean the house and make the meal, she looked like a completely different woman. She gets her nails done. She combs her hair now. And oh, my husband all over me. I said, yeah, because you're taking showers, right? And that's how y'all got them twins. So it's like she couldn't stop because her programming was, I have to be this type of woman in my culture. So a lot of the stuff is cultural. In order to be seen as a successful mom and a wife, I have to do this all while being an executive. We had to rewrite the script. And after that, she went from, I think she was making $280 or so. She ended up getting a $422,000 comp package in the same job at Amazon. They were laying on everybody. She was like, do you know what? I can do this for the team. And this is how much I want. They said, okay, like that. So she had the capacity to now look at, while everybody's being laid off, who am I? I'm the greatest to ever do it. What problem can I solve that's not being done? And how can I add more value to this organization? She just wrote it up. Her managers agreed. So it's like, that was the work to solve for. The work wasn't, can I get a new job? The work was, how are you about to self-destruct? But I had to attract women with what they thought they needed or what they wanted, and then give them what they needed.
My God, every time you say something, I'm like, there are like 80 things in there that I could just like, my head would fall off my neck. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And let's talk about this, because you talk about, I want to talk about money, right? So a lot of women in these jobs that are on their path to self-destruction in their own way, and this have this sense because of culture or whatever that they have to do these things. Like just last week, a friend was wearing it as a badge of honor that her husband and her have never been on a date night in 12 years of being married. And I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? And she's like, oh, no, but I just don't want to be a burden, but I want to do this, I want to do that. I'm like, what? And I mean, money is not an issue. None of that is the issue, right? So you have a lot of women and men and others who believe that sacrifice is a form of success, of I've got it together, I'm doing it all, etc. And there's this whole idea that I'm going to get my next title, I'm going to get my next promotion, and that's going to drive me to being more like powerful. It's going to drive me to having more space to do more things and be more things. You talk about this a lot, Christy. Are these promotions and titles just a way of keeping people playing small and not questioning the systems that they are in?
Well, it's also about what's possible. And we've tripled. I took one client from $210,000 to $635,000 in 4 months. So it's like, what's the problem? Why can't you see how great you are? Because she was from Nigeria. She grew up in Nigeria. She knew exactly who she was. She came over here in these American streets. And so she started getting, I would say, conflicted in her views of herself, because now she has mostly white men telling her who she is. And it's different if you move over to the US when you're younger, because they may be able to shape you and get you younger. Well, she knew exactly who she was. So now they're tearing down the strong Black woman who grew up in a country, right? So they're tearing her down. That affected how she saw herself. How she saw herself affected how she showed up at home, because we saved her marriage. Her and her husband were sleeping in the same bed when we started working together. It showed up how she raised her kids, because she barking at them. So I'm like, because you're being bullied at work, you come home and you be a bully at home. So because she's doing all the things that women do, she can't see how great she is. Once we broke all that off and figured out what happened, like, where did the conflict in how you see yourself start? Sometimes it starts in childhood. Hers started, she had a great childhood. Hers started when she came to the US. She knew who she was, and then she started to get attacked for her, and it started to create conflicting views. 4 months later, we tripled her salary, and she got $1 million funded in the business that she wanted to create in health tech, right? So it's like the goal and the challenge and the equation to solve for is mindset. So I heard this morning, I said, I'm going to use this forever. It's so good. You have mindset, you have tool set, and you have skill set. We have the tool set. We got the degrees, we have the certifications, we have the experience. But if you don't have the mindset, you keep trying to get to the next level with the tool set, that ain't working. Now I'm yelling. The first master's degree didn't work. Why do you have 3? I'm confused. Like I told the women who got 3 master's degrees, hey man, or a PhD. And the MBA and the MPA didn't work. Why are you going to, I just want doctor in front of my name. For what? That's something her first grade teacher, they call her smart, right? So we have all of that, but until you figure out how you see yourself, and that's the work, and be willing to do it in a non-judgmental way and admit, I am the problem. How I see myself is the problem. And that's the work. I already got the tools. That's how we could double and triple these salaries in the same job. I've gotten people promoted 3 levels up in the same organization. It's because once a woman comes back to herself and sees who she is, now she can employ it properly. Mindset, tool set, skill set. And we have everything. We just don't have a mindset. And if without the mindset, you get the mindset, then the tool set, you already got it. Then it's a skill set. Women know how to navigate. We just don't know how we see ourselves. That's what we're missing. Men are a little different because I've coached men and women. Women take work to believe that something is possible. I mean, my God. I mean, wrestle down to the ground like freaking crocodiles. Like I got the rest of these women like a wildcat. I'd be like, I'm tired of fighting wildcats. I'm tired of it. And once a woman comes back to herself, she don't get the money because we already know what we read the books, we know the podcast. We're not focused on how we see ourselves, the self-awareness piece of emotional intelligence. Men, they don't have a problem believing that anything is possible. They just need the strategy. So it's fun. They're not a heavy lift. I don't have to fight them. It's like, do this, do this, do this, do this. They be like, boop, 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 and then they get the money. So we continue to be mad at why men are more confident. Us being mad that a man is more confident and asking for the role does not move the needle forward. So they can talk about that all day on LinkedIn. It's not doing anything. So is it easier for you to see how great you are and own how great you are than it is to get a man to not be confident, to get a white man to not feel that he's privileged? That's a frivolous battle. Let's look at yourself.
100%. Christy, as suspected, this was an amazing episode. I have one more question for you, and then I want you to tell the audience how they find you these days. So these days, I know your vision has shifted a little bit. So can you tell us what your new vision is, what you're up to, and then how people can interact with you as you continue your ascension here?
Yeah, y'all don't have to bring me back because I don't even think we got warmed up. We're going to have to need a part 3.
We need a part 2.
You can do it. We do 4 parts.
I didn't even rub my hands together good. The new thing. So now that we have the data, like I was telling somebody earlier, I got over 100 men promoted in the Coast Guard. I've gotten over 100 women promoted. Now what's the new thing? Well, it's trauma default of teaching what's the foundational principle of everything that I do. How are we now going to get the money? And it took a while, Olivia, to grow into I've always had the gift. I had to grow into the person that can deliver the gift and then be able to manage the BS that comes back with it. Because a lot of people be like, oh, you a qualified therapist? Like, how can you say, because I don't have the degree, but let's not even get started on the scroll of degrees that I got. I'm not going to check one more box. I have the experience. I've lived this. And I've not just lived it, I've produced a fruit in hundreds of people. So I don't need the PhD to talk about why people have childhood trauma. Well, are you a certified? No. I've lived it and I've produced it. And from producing it, we've created $20 million. So I'm not saying. But so it's getting clear on what the trauma default is. And then that's what I'm teaching. So we have a YouTube channel. And then I've also put my proven methods on-demand courses. There is nothing else for me to do. I can only teach it for so long. It's the same. Mm-hmm. I do the exact same thing again and again. So what the Pay Raise Playbook is, we taught it as a 3-day at the time. And the Pay Raise Playbook has gotten 10 people $50,000 raises in less than 6 weeks, because now we need to talk about, again, the mindset. Once we get the mindset, y'all have the tool set, but then it's the Pay Raise Playbook gets on the mindset of, do you really believe you can get more money? That's the work. Like, you don't really know. How do you really feel about rich people? A lot of people hate rich people. You can't hate rich people and want to be rich. You can't hate your boss's money and think that you're going to get more money. And you can't get more money if you believe that money is the root of all evil. So once you have that, now we have the tool set. You got all of that. Now let's do the skill set of, now let's take what you know about yourself, take the skills that you have, and then we teach you how to not interview, how to negotiate. This is how much you should ask for. This is the job that you want. This is a job that you should align with, because this is the job that's going to align with your passion. So if you're over 35, 37, we should be working for passion first. Passion is going to beat a person that has all the credentials all day. So a lot of women of color who are angry, or they're victims, or they just need a job, or somebody hire me, or I got everything, or it don't take eight interviews to hire me. Yes, it does. If you're passionate, passion will beat skill set and experience all day. But here's the thing about women and women of color. We got the skill set and the experience. We got that too. We don't have the passion. So anyway, so that's an on-demand course. We'll put the links. That's payraiseplaybook.com. And y'all can reach me on ChristyRutherford.com. So my stuff is on demand, and then also to speak more and to work with ultra high net worth people. If you want to talk about that, we got 3 minutes for that. Why I changed my focus for women. Drove me crazy.
No, I feel like we need a whole separate session on that. Christy, no, we so appreciate you. We love your energy as per usual. You guys see why I talk about her all the time and why I continue to claim her forever and a day as my mentor. So when you guys see me on my soapbox, you know where half of it is coming from. So Christy, thank you so much. You guys go follow her on LinkedIn. Check out the Pay Raise playbook. We'll drop the links in the show notes so you have them. And as always, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Until next time.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.